Welcome to the Prime Real Estate Network channel on YouTube. I'm your host, Mr. Prime Real Estate, Ric Davis.
And I'm your host, the Texas Real Estate King, LarryWBrooks.
Every week, the King and I will provide you exclusive access to our network of lenders, investors, and real estate professionals from both the commercial and residential real estate sectors.
Now, are you millionaire minded? Or maybe you're a millionaire in the making. Make sure that you subscribe so you can get connected to the network. And always remember, the Prime Real Estate Network, where millionaires are in the making.
Create wealth for generations.
What's up, Prime Real Estate Network listeners? It's your man, LarryWBrooks, a.k.a. the Texas Real Estate King. Hey, when you get a moment, go ahead and go over to shoplwb.com. You can see the Pure Hustle merchandise that we have over there, some of our newer items that we have in stock, and of course, I got all the books that I've authored. I'd love for your support. You have a great day.
Good day. Welcome to the Prime Real Estate Network podcast. I'm your host, Ric Davis. Man, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you this week, just like it is every week here on the show. If you don't follow me on social media, I invite you to do so at Prime Real Estate Ric. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in residential or commercial real estate anywhere in the great state of Texas, but especially here in our lovely city of Houston, you can reach me directly on Instagram at Prime Real Estate Ric. Man, we have a really exciting show. I want to thank all of the members of our audience that are checking us out this Thursday, just like they do every Thursday. And I want to give a big, huge shout out to those who support our Patreon page. If you want to support the Prime Real Estate Network on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/theprimerealestatenetwork. Man, you'll get great instructions on how you can support the podcast and everything that we're doing with the movement. So big, huge thank you and a huge shout out to everyone in our audience that already support the show. Man, we have a really great show. Today's show is called and is titled From Idea to Empire. Today's show is for all those business owners, aspiring business owners, and those that have had that idea that they would want to put into practice and make come to fruition. Today's show, we have one of the foremost experts as far as small business management, small business startups, and she is an expert as far as business consulting. And without any further ado, I want to introduce this week's guest. She is a business consultant, a tax expert, a multi-time author, and an entrepreneur. I want to thank her for sitting into the Prime Real Estate Network podcast, and I'd like to introduce Coach Krystal Shanell. How are you?
How are you today, Ric? Thanks for having me.
Hey, Coach Krystal. Man, thank you so much. I know how busy it is for you on Thursdays. First things first, for the members of our audience that aren't familiar with you, Coach Krystal, or your movement and brand, could you just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about Coach Krystal Shanell and some of the things that you do to empower business owners and entrepreneurs?
Awesome, no problem. So my name is Coach Krystal Shanell. I am an author and speaker, but on an entrepreneurship side, I own a consulting firm that provides support for nonprofit as well as small business startup growth and development, all the way to funding. So we help at the very small level, from startup process, implementing ideas, purpose-driven successes, and all of that. But then we also help more so on the compliance side by helping small businesses manage their process and doing everything that they need to do to stay compliant and regulated with the state and local as well as federal government.
Coach Krystal, could you just share with our audience who may not be very, very familiar with corporate compliance, how big of an issue is corporate compliance for small business owners, and how have you seen small business owners get into a little hot water by not necessarily having someone like you to keep them in compliance?
It's a super huge issue, primarily because most people are really good at their craft. They're good at their talent. They're good at what it is in the industry that they're in. But many people don't know how to manage the business side of things. I kind of call it handling your business before it handles you. So essentially, it's important to start off right. So most people just get up and take off and go ahead and start their craft. But implementing processes and procedures, having the proper paperwork on file, adding an admin day, which is super crucial for small business owners to be able to handle the paperwork side at the very low level. It's super important. Many businesses, especially in the state of Texas, as well as other states, their compliance goes out within year one, primarily because they don't maintain the filing for the state. And if that's not done, then immediately the state franchise department will remove you and you will be out of compliance. So therefore, they will revoke your status with the state. And many people don't know that their status is revoked until someone pulls it, or they're looking for funding, or they go to open a bank account and it's an issue. So it's very huge.
No, and I thank you so much for being so transparent, because people who serve in your capacity, I don't think that your skills and services are as spotlighted as they should be in the entrepreneurial space, especially in the sector where business owners network and share ideas. So once again, I want to thank you for sharing these tips with us and the members of our audience. So you just mentioned how important it is to establish a sound foundation for your business paperwork wise from its inception. So could you share with us some of the types of businesses that you work with, so that people who have ideas of opening up their own business in that type can understand that it's important for them to establish their paperwork with you initially?
So I work with industries of a variety, like the beauty industry. I also work with a lot of truck drivers,
Ah,
especially on the tax side.
yeah.
These people are very talented and very good at what they do, and they often make quite a bit of money, but don't know that process.
Right.
And then on another side, I also work with entertainers, athletes, rappers. I have 7, 8 figure clients. So my passion is always the startup, the individuals who don't know because they need the education side. But then I also have a service level where I work with entities who have been in existence for a long time, or individuals who have a team that bring me in to kind of support their space as well.
You know what's so amazing about what you mentioned is because I'm sure in your space you hear from so many clients or potential clients that they feel as if their company isn't big enough yet, or their idea hasn't taken off and they're not popular enough yet to employ someone with your talents and skills. So, do you have a message for those who are currently aspiring and feel like they're a little too small, or feel like they may not be ready to reach out to you? How many people have you see try to give you a call after something happens and it's more challenging for you to get them to the finish line? Could you speak to that type of issue or scenario?
So the first thing I say from a purpose standpoint, that everybody has everything they need to succeed with inside of them. So if you're looking to start
Okay.
something or have that idea conception space, you already have what's needed to succeed. The bottom line is that everyone starts somewhere. Everyone has to have a space where they begin, whether they're already making money in another industry, they have a 9 to 5, or they're just really trying to figure it out. So you don't have to focus on hiring me to, or someone like me to be a part of your team. You can sometimes just consult to get the information and the training. You can take a class to be
Mm.
able to manage at a very small level, get some of that done. And when you get to the financial space that you're comfortable with paying somebody regularly, it can happen. But most people, such as myself, have small packages or have what we call one and done sessions that are consulting that you can, that are very affordable for you to get the information, take a training class, and then grow from there. And then as you grow, but you're not just kind of winging it when you don't know the process.
You know, one of the great things about your company and working with you specifically is that not only can you assist entrepreneurs in starting their company, filing the correct paperwork, putting themselves on a path to success, but you also can work with those successful business owners as far as staying compliant, making sure their taxes and everything are taken care of. I think one of the underreported parts of your company and your services are that you also are a tax expert. So can you talk about some of the things that you've seen from a tax perspective, some of the recent changes that may affect entrepreneurs and business owners in the state of Texas and the country abroad?
So again, the biggest problem from a tax standpoint is the franchise, especially in Texas. If you don't know, when you go to file your business, you then automatically develop a relationship with the comptroller's office, which handles the franchise space. They send you these little letters. Most people don't know what they mean, and you're required to report. No, Texas does not have taxes that we have to pay, but we're required to report regardless, because over a certain threshold, there will be some compliance requirements, but you can't just ignore these little letters. So not knowing is the big issue. Not knowing how to do your P&Ls, which is a profit and loss statement, knowing how much money you made every month, what you're spending. Do you have the proper categories prepared and set up from a bookkeeping level, even at a very entry level, is very important. Filing on time, and then knowing what you need to file. Is it a 1040 with a Schedule C? Do you need an 1120? Are you at a 1065 space, depending on who it is? If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you definitely need to have a conversation with someone just to know at the very entry level, what should you be filing? How should you be prepping? And what needs to happen? Most clients reach out to me when there's already a problem. So of course, if you reach out to me and I have to start fixing things, then it's more expensive. But if you have a very low cost and very lightly conversation with someone who can tell you how to prepare, then you're not necessarily having to clean up what you've messed up just because you didn't know. And it's kind of like when you get arrested, ignorance of the law does not deviate from you having to get in trouble.
You know, the franchise taxes, the relationship with the Texas comptroller, those are so many things that I think a lot of small business owners, those that start their first companies, may not necessarily be aware of or understand the importance of filing those reports and making sure on an annual basis you stay compliant from that standpoint. I want to bring in the Texas real estate king, Mr. Larry W. Brooks. He's been backstage listening to the conversation because he has great experience as far as business startups, being a serial entrepreneur, and I'm sure he has some great questions to pose that members of our audience could benefit from. So I'd like to introduce at this time the Texas real estate king, Mr. Larry W. Brooks.
What up, beautiful people? Listen, I don't even know if y'all can hear me. Raise your hand if y'all can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay,
you sound great, brother, man. You sound great,
man. It is so much noise going on around me, but I'm actually, listen, it's a lot going on. So, Krystal, what's up, love?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. I am so sorry that I was tardy, but Wi-Fi, you know how Wi-Fi is. And then I'm at this event. There's the world's largest mortgage company, wholesaling company, is hosting an event in Detroit that I'm at. And right now we got a motivational speaker on stage that you may hear in the background yelling. And but I wanted to tune in. I wanted to have an opportunity just to speak to my amazing friend. And I didn't get a chance to do what I normally do, which is just tell a little bit about the background. But everything from my nonprofit to certain things that are structured in the Brooks and Davis business, I've gotten from Krystal. So, Krystal, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of what we have going on. I'm gonna pause and go in and out with the mute just so that this noise in the background is not overloading the show. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Nah, man, appreciate the Texas Real Estate King chiming in live from Detroit City, making it happen, man. So, Krystal, he mentioned that you've had an opportunity to work with Mr. Brooks in the past and assist him as far as some business filing and things of that nature. So, without getting into too much detail, could you just share with our audience some of the ways that you and Mr. Brooks have partnered together in the past?
So we actually just did a project together in June, which is our latest endeavor, a part of my nonprofit space. I have a nonprofit for single parents, and Larry has an organization that helps grandparents. So he obliged me to show up and talk about his story, and we gave some insight to some single moms raising sons. So we've also helped and connected and collaborated on a community side, but then on the business side, we kind of go way back. He gave me an idea that he wanted to start a nonprofit, and I do what I do best, and I turned it into a thing. So we've been communicating and connecting on that level. And then, of course, we share gems back and forth on the serial entrepreneur side. We talk business, but we also keep each other encouraged because, this journey is a journey and it's not always up. So he has been very instrumental in supporting that process for me as well.
And I thank you so much for sharing because one of the things that Larry and I both gain from hosting this platform on a weekly basis is that we're not only introducing entrepreneurs and business owners in our audience to professionals like you that can help take their businesses to the next level, but at the same time, we take great joy in being able to share people that we've worked with on a personal basis, not just a paid spokesman like you on an infomercial, but people who we have real life experiences with so that it's more than just a referral on a business card. It's actually family. People can gain an idea of the nuance and the complexity and the depth of the relationships. So I thank you so much for sitting in with us from that standpoint. I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this during any of your interviews in the past, but for our audience, Coach Krystal, could you just share a little bit about what you did professionally before you became a business owner, before you decided to travel down this road of entrepreneurship? Because I'm just so curious to see like what your professional background was like and what type of motivations led you to this space.
Sure. So my entrepreneur journey was not necessarily one that I chose. It kind of chose me, if you get what I'm saying. My background is in oil and gas accounting. So I started off in payables, receivables decades ago, which I'm originally from Louisiana. So I journeyed here for that reason. I was during that time in the all field downturn. So I had a couple layoffs and my dad's a preacher. So I started a side hustle of helping nonprofits and it just kind of took off from there. And after so many layoffs, I ended up transitioning into full-blown entrepreneurship. So it was just kind of like my money was getting too funny and I needed to be consistent. And so I'm here. So I took my accounting background with my, I would say, journey of helping people start up. Went back to school, got my MBA, and then started the process of full-blown entrepreneurship. Thus, I'm here. So I kind of collided with it opposed to just like, hey, I'm coming.
No, it's really interesting about your story because you talk about your experiences as a corporate accountant person and someone that were working in that accountant field. So for those in our audience that are currently working in corporate settings, an accountant or something along those lines, can you just share how those skills that you developed at that job helped to transition you to entrepreneurship and how it gave you a leg up when starting your companies because you've always had that organized mindset? Because we want to give everyone out here in our audience who may feel like they're kind of boxed in, we want to give them an idea to understand that the skills you have can translate to being a business owner. So how did you use your skills from accounting when it came to being a business consultant, entrepreneur, and tax expert?
So I'm super analytical, and working in corporate has taught me. I sat under a controller who got the accolades, and I did all the work essentially. So sometimes people think that that is a terrible thing for someone to get the credit, but it seems to me that every space that I was in, every company that I grew at, it was like a stepping stone to what I'm doing now because I was able to remain consistent. I knew about compliance. I understood what it took to make somebody else's business profitable. I also knew how to manage different varieties from the human resource side all the way to the accounting side. So I would say that when I look back on my journey, absolutely nothing was wasted that I learned. No training, no encounter with a terrible boss, from dealing with being a female working in a dominant male industry. None of that was wasted because now that I'm in entertainment, I walk in a room and I might have 5 rappers that I have to deal with and they're all male, even though they're great female rappers. But I can handle myself. It also taught me to kill my emotions from a personal standpoint.
Ah,
So I believe that, when you sit back, the first thing that I would say, if you're looking to make a transition, do some self-reflecting and some inventory of the things you've done, writing those things down, not just from a resume standpoint, but figuring out what you've done in corporate or at a job that can then correlate to your small business, because sometimes we often do a lot of things and have experiences and don't know about them.
wow, that's so empowering and enlightening. And I want to thank you for sharing that message because there are so many business owners that we have opportunity to interview here on the show, and they all share those similar strands of I'm using some of the skills that I acquired in a prior professional life to help me build, create, and push forward with the thing that I'm now passionate about now in my entrepreneurial life. So thank you so much for sharing. And I want to make sure I ask you this question because this is something that I've always found very interesting when I have a chance to meet people like yourself. When you think back to your upbringing in your childhood, were there any members of your family or your inner circle that were entrepreneurs, business owners that may have served as like an inspiration or an example for what your life could be?
Very young, no, not at first. I grew up with mostly my grandparents, so they were 9 to 5ers. But their level of service outside of their jobs is what taught me a lot about entrepreneurship as well as community development. They did several things that they took very much pride in. The thing about entrepreneurship is you have to have self-discipline, because nobody gets you up and tell you to go out and network or make this call or set your prices. No one tells you what that is. So I would say early on that their commitment to service outside of what they did every day taught me about maintaining, operating outside of my comfort level. Growing as I grew older, my dad began to he's a counselor, and he does work with
Okay.
addictive disorders and whatnot. So that kind of taught me, as he grew, I kind of helped him with some processes and learned some things, which kind of put my hand in the cookie jar, I would say. Um, but a lot of my learning has been School of Hard Knocks. I would be honest and say my degree didn't teach me much about operating a business. It taught me about the components of a business and what businesses stand for. But good old fashioned work. And outside of what I do, I also manage administration for Trader Truth, the rapper. So that was is probably my best learning experience, because we took someone who had ideas of building entities, and I got to freestyle and play with it a little bit and make it my own. So those combinations together, I would say essentially has helped me build my method and my process, which is a little unorthodox, but it works. Because it combines the
Right.
business acumen with the human side of it, because people don't do business with businesses. They do business with people. So managing that
Right.
internal space for people is necessary.
Absolutely. And I thank you so much for sharing because what this shows is that for the members of our audience who feel as if their business is unique or what they sell is really different, you work with a variety of different types of business owners and different business classes. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
And finally, I want to ask you this. For members of our audience that would like to meet, greet, interact with you, follow your movement, what type of events are you heading up and what do you have going in the very near future?
I'm very passionate about education. So making sure that my clients are knowledgeable about their process is necessary. So I have an upcoming class for small business owners on the 26th of September. It's virtual, so anyone nationwide could join in. We will be talking specifically
Perfect.
about components for compliance, growth development, as well as funding. So prepping their business to get to a place of being able to effectively get funded and not to have to use your own capital, but gaining the process and the steps to get that done is they can find that on my website, coachkrystalshanell.com, or if they follow me on IG, I have a LinkedIn link that they can click and it'll take them right to the course.
Man, I want to thank you so much, Coach Krystal. I want to thank you for sharing your experiences, your insight, talking to us a little bit how you've helped other visionaries in the business owner and entrepreneurial space. Are there any final words or a final inspirational word you want to send out to anyone who may be sitting in their cubicle at home, who may listen to this interview while they're in traffic, that may be thinking like, I'm thinking about a change. I have so much more I can offer the world. I want to take control of where I am financially. I want to build something that's lasting. Do you have anything that you could share as far as a word of inspiration for those that want to make a change and need to reach out to you to make that change?
Of course. I would definitely say please give yourself some grace. Do not allow the world to make you think that you should be moving at a certain pace. Everybody has their own space, they have their own pace, and they have their own process. So make sure that you give yourself grace in that space. In addition to that, again, you have everything you need to succeed inside of you. So just do the self inventory, figure out what's in there, and begin to process it out. Take your idea and not be afraid of it. Sometimes things are unique that we have internally. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It's your dream, it's your vision. And if somebody else was supposed to be a part of it, they will be. Just give yourself time and work, it'll all work itself out. So whom much is given, much is required.
Man, thank you so much, Coach Krystal. I want to urge everyone in the audience, follow Coach Krystal on Instagram. Click on the link in her bio, support the movement, follow her, get her books because the education piece is something that I think everyone that hears her voice could benefit from. Let it serve as inspiration. Let it serve as a motivator and reach out to Coach Krystal to make that change. If you've already started your company and you feel like you may need her to kind of like smooth out those rough edges, reach out to her. If you have the world's greatest idea and you want to make sure you start out on a solid footing, please reach out to her as well. Coach Krystal, if there's anything in the future as far as a new book or a new event, please share that information with Larry and myself, and we will definitely get that information out to the audience. I want to thank you so much for carving some time out your busy schedule. And I look forward to speaking with you again in the near future.
Likewise, have a great one.
Thank you. Everyone, man, great show. Really excited about the information that Coach Krystal was able to share with us. Like I mentioned just a second ago, man, follow Coach Krystal on Instagram, support her movement, get a book, educate yourself. Until next week, everyone out there in the audience, I urge you all to be safe, and I'll see you soon.